Hey you, I'm the Queen of Shade. Welcome to the interview. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit my Cash App to support your favorite content creator. Now let's get to the interview. Mwah.
Let me tell you something. You're a bougie bitch and your mama is too. Said you're a bougie bitch and your mama is too. You're a bougie bitch and your mama is too. Said you're a bougie bitch and your mama is too.
Salutations to foes. This is your fabulous leader, the Queen of Shade, coming to you with another special presentation. Moving full speed ahead, getting to know amazing people, covering their stories, learning them, growing with them, and not leaving like we came. Today, I have someone very special that you need to meet. I got up really early this morning because I had to cross time zones for this wonderful occurrence to happen. And today I am beaming into Belgium, and I have someone you need to meet. This person, classified, is a fitness and life coach, specializing in Pilates, yoga, strength, and strength training. He calls himself a head warrior. We'll get to that. Naked yoga guy. He loves fashion. And he keeps saying this phrase, no change, no change. So we're going to discuss all this. We're going to discuss this bio immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, all the way from Belgium, I would like to introduce you to Louis McNairy.
Well, hello.
Hi. How are you this morning?
I am beyond blessed. It's afternoon here, but I am really well. I am really well. Been going through some good life changes. So it's been really good,
Yeah. So like I said, we're going to discuss this bio immediately. So tell me a little bit, tell me about this fitness and life coaching and Pilates and yoga and strength and head warrior and naked yoga and fashion. So actually we're gonna have to break that down because that's a lot.
It's a lot of different elements to create.
Yeah, it is. But you know what I love? I love that because we're seeing that more, especially on social media and in the world. People do multiple things. It's no longer just one thing. It is a heartfelt and a headfelt situation where they realize they can be more than just one thing in this world. And that is always a beautiful thing. Do you believe that?
I 100% believe that. And it's very interesting because when I went on this whole journey of self, to just give you a little bit of a background, I am the second oldest. I have 8 brothers. It's a lot of us. Yeah. And so one of my parents did a lot of years in the military. And so later on in life, I did things in the military. I was in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years, 8+ years, almost 9. And then I decided to walk away. But during all of this journey of finding out who I was, identifying properly with myself, being queer, always knowing there was something a little bit different, I had these inner battles with myself. So I kept putting myself in boxes like, well, I am this, I am this, I am this. And then it got to a point where I was just like, I'm all of these things. And I'm also none of these things because they do not define me. And so then I went on a new adventure on what are the things I like? What are the things that interest me? And how can I actually apply all effort into the things that I like to create a lifestyle that is everything that I like? And so that is kind of how I got here. It was kind of an explosion of things. I will say my biggest catalyst though was probably my mother, as corny as that sounds. Was definitely my mother. I remember being raised in a non-conventionally, but very traditionally. So I always looked at her as she always interested me, and she was definitely not normal in the best type of way. And so subconsciously, I always had that in me. And then at some point, lack of a better term, I just said, forget it. I'm just going to live out loud and see what happens. And I started diving into my interests and investing a lot of time in them. And now I'm here in a new country again.
That's what I was getting ready to say, because I'm like, clearly you're an American.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I actually just moved here to Belgium 3 weeks ago.
Oh my
I moved from Netherlands, from Amsterdam to Antwerp. And so now I'm in Belgium. And so that's why I was like, I had a very busy morning because I'm like, technically it's a different country. So although it's still in the EU, I'm doing all these migration things and I still work in the Netherlands sometimes. I also still work online. So I have a very colorful last month or so. So yeah, but it's been lovely.
Wow. But you know what? I think that that is so beautiful. The fact that you've traveled, you've served. First of all, thank you for your service because you helped to protect this country no matter what state it's in. You helped us, you helped us and you protected us and you fought for us. And I don't take that lightly. Even though I'm running to Paris on the first thing smoking, I
Yep.
still thank you for your contributions. So, my God, Belgium, you said Amsterdam first. Why
Mhm.
Amsterdam? And then
So
why?
I give you a little backstory on this as well. So a lot of people don't know this because they only follow me socially. I've been married it'd be 9 years in July. We've been together for about 10 years. And my husband is Belgian, actually.
Ah,
And we met in China. I used to work for the American government and he speaks Chinese and he used to work for the Belgian government in China. And so we met in China. And while in China, at some point, I was like, it's time to go. I was still in the service at this time. And I was like, my job here is done. I'm going to move back to the US. And then he followed me to the US, just fast forward it. Eventually, he came to the US. And then we were in New York City. And I kind of made a quiet promise that if you spend years in the US, I will spend years in Europe. And so I was like, I think the Netherlands is the best place because just to give you a little history about the languages in Belgium, they have Flemish, which is equivalent to the Dutch that the Netherlands speak. It's just a different dialect. But in the Netherlands, it's more cultural when it comes to Americans. They also speak English very well. So I was like, I can move to the Netherlands. We can move there together. I can learn Dutch. And then we can eventually move, closer, move to Belgium. And so that's kind of where we are now. On that journey, my Dutch is really not that good, but it's enough for me to I can go grocery shopping. I could do all the things I need to do. I was on the phone today with some migration person and we were going back and forth in Dutch. And I was like, is there any chance we could do this in English? Because some of these questions, and then she was like, my English is really bad. So, but it was a fun conversation because I got to really humble myself in the language. And then she also did the same. She's like, we could just go for this. And she was speaking in English. I was answering in Dutch. It was just it was a moment. It was a lovely moment, but that's what kind of got me on this side of the world.
I like that. But you know what I like even more? That your marriage was recognized.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's very interesting because when I was in the military, Don't Ask, Don't Tell still existed.
Yeah.
And I was the first person in my battalion to legally get married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. It was thank you. Thank you. So, and for me, it wasn't even it wasn't a big thing until after I started looking back at it.
Yeah.
And people were talking to me because as you know, queer people in general, we always find each other and we always create a tribe, whether it's on the radar or under the radar, you cannot stop us. So it was already a tribe of us, like on the low when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was happening. And then I remember when it kind of lifted and then we kind of started looking to our left and to our right, because although it changed on paper, it didn't change in real life.
Right.
And to be honest, when I served in the military, it was a tough time in that aspect, but I was totally committed to what I was doing. My performance always speaked, and I was one of the few that I was never really harassed except for by one leader, but that ended in my favor. But I remember when it happened, we kind of looked left and right, and most of us were people of color, and we've kind of been here before, where the laws say one thing, but treatment is another. So let's kind of tread lightly. But I was already at this point where I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And at this point, I hadn't been to war yet, but I was on my way to Afghanistan, I think within the next year or so. Oh. And I was like, you know what? This is not how I'm gonna live my life. And I just kind of rolled the dice and went out there. And it was so shocking that everyone on the underground, I would go home and all of us would get together like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to be nobody's martyr, but I am going to wear this crop top out in town. You can either come with me, you can be seen with me, or you cannot. That is your choice. And then slowly we bubbled. And then all of a sudden our leaders were coming out. Like the people that, the older folks in the military are solid. They will not change. They do not and they started just coming out later in life. And it was this whole thing. And then I went to North Carolina, which was my duty station in America. And I don't know if you know about North Carolina, but Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, they are homophobic and they still have a layer of racism as well.
Oh,
And
wow.
so here I am trotting in there, super Black queer guy, flying my, at this point, fiance from Belgium to come visit. We later got married. And I'm like, here we are showing up super colorful, just ready for it, right? And it was a journey. I will say it was a journey, but that journey for me allowed me to tell my story. I tell this story to so many young queer people, and even heterosexual people who are going through challenges. People of color still go through challenges in the military that no one talks about. It is a different experience for us. And so I still have these stories off the radar. I don't put them in public because I want to make sure people feel comfortable to tell me what they want to tell me. And then I can share what I want to share and keep that to myself. But now we fast forward, I say coming to Europe and everyone was like, okay, cool, married, great, paper. Like it's not even a thing. It's like, it's not even a conversation. They're just like, okay, two men. And you see it in the conversations as well. When we walk in, people are like, okay, so they're a couple. We can walk in with a lesbian couple because we have a lesbian couple that are close friends of ours. And we walk in together, all four of us can walk scattered, but they'll still ask. Yeah. Like, you know, like, are y'all together? Whose partner is who? You know, and unfortunately in America, if you see two guys and two girls together, it's like, those two are together, those two are together. Yeah. So it's very different. And it's also very comforting. So I will say I do like the feeling here of not having to feel a little bit of shame that is for the past on us as queer people. So
wow, I love it. I love it. I love it. So how many years have you given him in Amsterdam and now in Belgium?
Right now, since we just got to Belgium, we were in Amsterdam for 3 years, which was supposed to be 2. We did just buy this beautiful place. So we'll probably stay in it for at least another 2 to 3 years. And then we got to get some American soil, I think, or Spain. So we're still going back.
Spain. Don't come back here.
Exactly. It really depends.
Don't come back here. Don't come back here.
Spain. It really depends on the political climate because I'm looking around. I'm like, ooh, I don't.
It's not. Yeah, I'm getting like. It's so funny. I've been working so hard to be able to pick up. And that's why I do it over the internet, because I can pick up like this. I can do this from anywhere in the world. So it's like, as long as I log on, we can have these conversations and they be from anywhere. I am going to first stop in Lisbon, Portugal, and then go on to Paris. And I'm stopping in Lisbon because if you get citizenship in Lisbon, then it opens you up to 28 other countries in the EU, and France is one of them. So it was like a back door, you know.
I love a good back door. Why Paris and France though? Like, why there?
You know why? Because when I was, I'm turning 40 in September. So,
okay, come through 40.
Yeah, I'm turning 40 in September. When I was 19, I started modeling. When I was 22, I got the opportunity to voyage to Paris and live there as a fashion model for 6 months. It was very hard. It was very challenging. I ended up leaving, but I met a whole lot of people that I still connect with today that are still, that have risen, because we were all kids then. Now we've risen and all of us have, you know, we're mavericks in our own right. So now we can like help each other. And the thing is, now I'm over here and they're like, if you come here, it'll be easy. You've got that voice and you know what to do and all of these things and all this content. So they tell me, come on over here. So my thing was, I didn't want to necessarily go through the difficulties of trying to get dual citizenship because it's very, very difficult. So one of my friends, his name is Morgan. He's an architect out of New York City. His mother was a supermodel. So he told me like, yo, I own property in Lisbon and my mother is around the corner in Lisbon. We own 2 pieces of property and we have citizenship here. And because of that, we can travel to 28 other countries. And France is one of them. You never be bothered in France, and never be looked at and they want to see your papers. Why are you here? So that's why. And it's just always been a dream. I haven't been in Paris in 17 years, but I have like literally after that experience, before I left, I took my heart out of my chest, buried it and said, I'll come back for you. It was that moving for me, the whole city. Like I was the type of person where I felt like I had been there before. And it was very surreal for me because I'm a huge Josephine Baker fan. So, studying Josephine Baker and then watching Lynn Whitfield portray Josephine Baker in Paris, it just changed my life. It changed my life. So I knew that the French were a people that I wanted to be a part of. And it's kind of funny because when they ask zodiac signs, they say France is their kind of honorary Libras. They like the elite, they like the finer things. And with me being a Libra, it's just like I had no problems there. I had no problems there, like none. Like I had no problems there. And the only problems came because I was heavily indoctrinated as a child. And I also had and live with mental illness, bipolar type 1, PTSD, and acute anxiety disorder. And I've had them for a very long time. So that was why I had to leave, because I had to go back and get those under control. Now, I did spend time in their hospital, a beautiful hospital. They took the best care of me, and I did not get a bill. Socialized healthcare.
There it is.
I didn't get a bill. But what I love about the experience, because I also saw London as well, what I loved about the experience of it all was that my brain went from this to this. I realized that when I stepped back on American soil and did not want to be there, that my life was so much larger than bickering with my neighbor, than standing in a line trying to get benefits for my life and what I have. It was so much larger. So I literally put my head down and worked the whole time. And now I'm here and I have so much intellectual property and I do so much, and it's so beautiful. Whereas, I'm not a Hollywood person. I'm not that type of person. I don't see anything in Hollywood for me, although they're reaching out to me now and asking me to do things, because they see the value. But that's the thing. Now you see the value. Now that I've worked and done all that I've done, the value is there. You see it. But now my game, the name of my game is hold on to it and try to get out of here without them trying to make you sell. Like that's what I'm doing.
That's a hell of a game.
Yes, it's a hell, but get this, I'm a master at it. I'm not selling shit. I'm
Good.
not selling
Good.
shit. I'm leaving. They're like, well, why are you going? Why are you go? I'm out. I'm out.
I'm out.
So, what's your husband's name?
Michiel.
Michiel.
Yeah,
I love like European names.
Some of them get me because sometimes I don't understand what they're saying. I'm like, oh, that's the whole name.
Oh.
I met a guy, his name is Joop, and I was like, oh, so that and that's all of it. He's like, yeah, that's it. Yesterday I met a guy named Seal, and I was like, oh, like the singer? He's like, I don't know what that means. I was like the animal? I don't know what that is. I was like, okay, all right, and it's spelled S-I-L, and I was like, oh, like so it's like Sylvester? No, he's like, it's Seal. But they do have some beautiful names here that I'm like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But it's fortunate that they have to change their names when they speak to people. Because like Michiel, his name is Michiel, but he tells people to Miguel, or he tells people Michael because people can't pronounce it. And even I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Okay. And so I tell people it's like me and then the heel of your foot. And then they're like, oh, Michiel, which is also not correct because it's a harder G. Yeah. So it's kind of like a ch, so it's like Michiel.
Yeah.
But people can't say it. So he just says Miguel or Michael, that's fine. And I'm like, tell him what your name is.
I took a European name myself. Yeah. When I came back, I was kind of looking at just names from everywhere, and I chose a Scandinavian name. I chose Bjorn.
I know Bjorn. Bjorn Defoe.
Yeah, and I was born Kali Payton. Yeah, I lived as Kali Payton until after college, and then Paris in 2005, and then I came back and I was Bjorn Defoe.
I didn't know that. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah. It's nothing like it's a wonderful thing. Like it's a wonderful thing to go out in the world and find yourself. Like most people, sadly to say, most Americans will never do that.
Yeah, it's this idea of if I'm going to look for something else, I now must leave or lose what I have. And sometimes what we lose is what we're not supposed to have in the first place to create space for what we need to gain.
Yeah.
And when you said you went abroad and then all of a sudden your brain opened,
Yeah.
that same thing happened to me. My first duty station in the Marine Corps was Okinawa, Japan. I
Wow.
had the time of my life, 2 years in Japan, had the worst time and the best time. But I just remember culturally opening like a flower. Like I've heard the stories from my parents. My parents both served and they were abroad, but like being there and having conversations or just no words were spoken,
Yeah.
but having a cultural exchange on the smallest things, whether it was food, fragrance, or just anything, a daily practice. I was like, the world is bigger than where I'm from. And then from then on, I was like, I'm not going to be, because when I first got there, I was like, okay, I want to find the American store. I want to find where the Americans are. I want to be comfortable. And then I just, for some reason, I was like, what's over there?
Yeah.
And then once I got a little taste of like cultural differences, I'm like, okay, what does this culture do? What does this culture do? And I have friends here who also live in Europe, specifically in the Netherlands, and you can speak English because everyone in the Netherlands speaks English. And some of them have been there longer than I have, and they refuse to try to learn the language. Yeah. And I'm like, why? I'm like, even if you learn a few words, they would be so happy. Yes, they'll laugh, but that's part of the game. They'll laugh and then they'll correct you. And then later on in life, you'll laugh and then it's fine. Like I say words that I know aren't right. In my mind, they sound perfect, but they come out of my mouth not so perfect. And like you have to be able to show that, because for me it's like saying, I understand your culture is different. I understand I chose to be here. I could at least try to assimilate a little bit and let you know that I hear you, you're important, and it matters. Because when you take your own language and say, I refuse to learn their language and cultures and customs or talk about them and share the differences, you're saying what I have is already better than what you have, and I'm okay with this. Yeah. And you don't know you're saying that, but as a culture of people, imagine if everyone moved to America and everyone brought their language with them, was like, I'm not going to speak anything but what I speak. Good luck. The first thing we'd say is go back to your country. Not us specifically, but that's what the country would say. Go back to your country. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah. You're so right. The little things, because there are two things I miss about Paris that I'll probably cry when I get there. My therapist tells me all the time, take people with you because it's going to be an emotional thing. You haven't been there so long and you love this place so much. It's going to be emotional. So the first thing I miss, and I can see it like yesterday, is shopping in the grocery stores. Looking at all of the great juices and things that America will never have access to. That they have papaya and all of these different drinks and things you can have. And then my second thing is going to the gardens at Tuileries, Luxembourg, and literally they're gardens. And in the backdrop is a castle. And you're walking around in the center of France and there's a castle.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And it's also culture and it's beautiful.
Yes.
And sometimes I don't feel lucky. I never feel lucky. I think everything that is for us is for us. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I feel beyond blessed because I look at some folks and it's just how I see things, right? We can be in the same situation and it's just, I choose to see the beauty in everything. I've seen the beauty in the bad. Just to give you a story, a big cultural thing we have in the Netherlands is this thing called Zwarte Piet. Okay. What Zwarte is black Pete. Yeah. Just to give you a short story, it's basically you have like their version of Santa Claus. Well, we stole it, but Sinterklaas. And then he has Zwarte Piet, which is like a small blackface person who follows him around and like punishes the kids if they do something wrong, but also gives them. Oh, it's this whole thing, but it's a legit blackface image, like red lips, nappy hair, big hoop earrings, and then during the season, everyone dresses around in blackface and runs around the city.
Oh, that would scare the hell out of me the first.
It's culturally, it's crazy because black people are here and they're like, this is not appropriate, right? And they're like, it's our history. And then you look around, it's quite creepy. And so there's been a lot of like conversations about it. And so then they changed him to Rainbow Pete. And then now and so now he's Black Pete, but now the story is he came down the chimney and that's why he has like chimney dirt on him, where we're like, why is his lips red? Why is he wearing hoop earrings? And why are you wearing a wig that is definitely made to look like Black people's hair? Those are but okay, the chimney did it all. But for me, I always see this as like, these are people who have a tradition, right? And then they come up to me and they always ask me, what do you think about this? As an American, as a Black person, what do you think? I'm like, I think I'll have the conversation. And everyone's shocked by that. I'm like, I know you want me to be super angry about Blackface running through the streets, but I want to talk to these people and see, A, are they ignorant to the fact that Blackface exists?
Right.
Can they have changed that? Yes, the internet is real. But also, I cannot tell these farmers and these people how to live their lives from a culture, the way they were raised. They're not looking for it because a lot of them don't have a lot of Black friends and they don't have Black family members. So they just don't have access to it. It's the same thing with like European culture. When you stick Americans in here, we don't know about this culture.
Exactly.
I went to a festival last weekend. It was called Rosbert, and it's about a big horse that had 4 brothers that had to ride this horse into battle. And it has to be 4 brothers in real life. So it has to be 4 consecutive brothers, no daughters in between. And they get the luxury every 10 years, they bring this big fake horse out and they have to sit on the horse for like 6 hours with their widespread legs doing a parade through the city. And then they stop at to a center and then they do this big show. And I'm like, this happens every 10 years. And you see, and like for me, I'm like, first thing I do as a body worker, I'm like, their adductors are gonna hurt. Like they're sitting 6 hours. I'm like, they're like, oh, but they trained for it for a year. And I'm like, so they trained for a year just sitting on tables and sitting with their legs wide open so they can sit on this horse. And like for us, I'm like, this is crazy. But they're like, you don't understand. You don't understand, Louis. This is culture. And I'm like, you know what? It is. It's not mine. Everyone here is volunteering to do it. Who am I to tell them that they shouldn't be up there, right? But it's a very interesting cultural thing. And you see adults crying because the horse goes away and they're like, we won't see it again for 10 years.
Oh.
And I'm like, I get it. Like, I see the connection when the horse came out. I mean, it was like, you would have thought the world, 100%, like the horse came out and this, mind you, there was 80,000 people in the street.
Oh, wow.
80,000.
Wow.
And it was raining. So they predicted it was going to be 100,000, but because it was raining, 20,000 people were smart enough to stay home.
Ah!
But we were outside soaking wet. And I was like, here comes the horse. And it was a moment. And culturally, that doesn't make sense to me. But I also realized that like every culture has a thing. Yeah. And we have to respect these cultures. And it was very interesting to see. So if you're ever here, it's only a train ride away from Paris, by the way.
I know.
To Dendermonde. I think the next one is 8 years because they had to wait 12 years because of COVID. They canceled it 2 years ago. And so it was 2 years late. So in 8 years, it'll be back. And then you can come on over and we could enjoy the festival of Rose.
But you know, it's so crazy because that's exactly why I want to go to Europe. Mm. I don't feel that Black people here truly have a culture or a heritage. It is always steeped in slavery. Mm. It is always steeped around the pain. And how are we ever going to heal if we constantly live our lives in the pain? Now, the pain happened. We are supposed to acknowledge it. But my therapy, we're supposed to put steps in place to walk out of the pain and set new boundaries and have new ideas. I don't feel that there's enough culture for Black people here because every time we try to do something or celebrate something, it is belittled by the press or, you know, shot down by our officials that we elected. Mm-hmm. You know, so I love Europe and get it. I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it because my thing is run around and teach me something new. I can be a Black man anywhere, True. Because I take my Blackness with me. And my Blackness is not about watermelons, fried chicken, grape juice, you know, grapes. So that's not my experience. You know, so it's like I can go anywhere. And you know, also I'm saying this because I started in the projects when I was very young. My mother, you know, it was the 80s. My mother was on crack. My father, mental illness, crack swept through. My grandmother raised me. But my grandmother became a teacher with a master's degree and moved me to the suburbs. So yeah, me and my 3 siblings. So that because of that education, I went on to college. I got accepted to 4 colleges, had to leave because 18 was that age for me when I started having, you know, the problems with mental health and mental issues and had my first manic episode. But Yeah, like I can't wait to run out of here and learn new cultures and be a part of that and be a part of them and observe their holidays because it's like it's really I'm not trying to say America is the worst, but America is the worst.
It, it is also, I also like to say, I want to really go back to what you said about Black culture in America. It does not exist without pain. And
Yeah,
for me, that was also a reason that I always felt disconnected from progress in America,
yeah.
because we would have the conversations and we'll celebrate, and we do it to ourselves. We'll celebrate something. We even do it with Beyonce. To give you an example, we'll celebrate Beyonce's success, but then we'll say, "But she stole this choreography from this person. She had 30 people write on this one song." I'm like, you're already like perpetuating this. You can't be great by yourself because something had to happen, which is the same as like us being strong. I'll give you another story. This was not the greatest story, but I think we handled it well. So in the military, I was in Afghanistan, and one of my close friends, we were talking about, how we were serving, and like I happened to be one of the best shooters there. I was in the best shape, and we were talking. And mind you, we had no rest, and we were like in a hole. I got it.
Oof.
And he said something that I just did not like. We were talking about fitness tests. He's like, yeah, when we get back, we're gonna have to adapt quick. We're gonna go see therapists, and we're gonna have to get right back to this pull-up bar. My goal is to beat you on the run because we have, a fitness test every 6 months. And he was like, well, thanks to my ancestors, you'll always be faster and stronger than me. And I said, what? I was like, yeah, exactly. That was the inside of me. And it gets a little deeper. It gets a little deeper. And I was like, what exactly are you trying to tell me? It's like, well, genetically, because, slavery, we kind of like gave you a one-up physically. And I was like, we're just not going to have this conversation. And so I'm walking away. Check this out. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go find another space. And he was like, you're welcome. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm sure your ancestors didn't thank my ancestors for you being in this great of shape. So you're welcome. That is a military experience. I am not the only person who has had that experience. And so when you do that to people, of course, subconsciously you start to think, well, I mean, am I strong? Like, did I earn this? Did I work for this? Like, am I worthy of this? And these things happen to us subconsciously, whether it's through literature in school and to each other.
Racism.
But the beautiful thing about racism, it won't go away, and neither will I. So you can do the things you think you need to do, and I'm going to do the things that I have to do. And I've never been a mean, spiteful person, and I think that is why I'm always blessed in the way that I am blessed. I'm always kind, and I've always had the luxury of having a moment to breathe in every situation.
I want to stay there for a second.
Oh, please. Let's sit
for a second. Our athleticism is genetic. We were naturally a more robust group of people, our ancestors. The reason why they were able to subdue us is because they lied to us. And then they brought firearm and power that we had not yet seen or did not yet have. I have a huge problem with that. And thank God when I was in Paris, I never encountered, or London, I never encountered anyone with that way of thinking. Because I would have very quickly said to him, well, you're already saying to me that you're genetically inferior. Why am I not in charge? The strongest man wins. The strongest man leads. He is not ridden like a horse by the weakest man. That's where I would have went. And he'd have been mad with me, and it would have, it would have. But what I love is that not every last one of them are like that.
Facts.
That's what I love. Like, get this. Sometimes I have a very difficult time shedding light on things because my classmates, like I don't even like post those kinds of political things on my Facebook because it's my classmates and they're all Caucasian and I love them dearly. You know, like I went to school with these people. I came in I started in elementary school. So it's like in the suburbs. So it's like, listen, I love these people. These people have never treated me any less than I deserved. There were two instances one in middle school and one in high school where there was an issue with racism, and my school expelled them.
Mm.
My school rose to my defense so fast and literally put them out of the district, got on the loudspeaker and said, we will not tolerate any form of racism here. So get it, it didn't mean that it went away, but people thought twice about showing it. And that's the thing about racism. It will never go away, but we want people to think twice about publicly displaying it. That's what we have to get done, because you cannot change the way a person thinks, feels, and believes. You cannot. Years and years of systematic training will show you that. They will still be what they innately are. But what we can do is make the consequence so severe that they have to go home in the comfort and the quiet of their own home and do those things and say those things, but cannot come out into the world and do these things when they see a Black person. You know, thank God that Caucasians are not all the same.
Indeed.
Like, it's crazy. I have had some of the best experiences with my classmates. Like, even with this, like, because, you know, when I was in school, I was not this. They knew I was gay, but I was still very heavily indoctrinated. I hadn't kicked that bug. I didn't kick that bug until after college. But now I'm posting on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook like this. And so many of my classmates are like, you're so beautiful. We're so glad that you are living your life and that it paid off for you and that you are happy. Like, they genuinely care about those things. And, you know, a couple of them have said to me, we need to talk, because get this, these are people that move and shake in the world. They do things. So one of my buddies, his name is Mike. He wrote me the other day. He's like, we need to talk. Give me a number. We need to bust it up about all of this that you're doing. And I'm just like, I'll call you, but I'm busy. I'm busy.
I'm booked. I'm busy.
Yeah, I haven't called him yet, but that's where I hold out a candle of hope, because that's what it is. People keep saying, we need to change racism. We need to stop racism. We will never stop racism. But what we can stop is the public display of racism. Make it that penalty severe. And then what will happen is motherfuckers will keep their mouth closed.
Exactly. And then in time, the muting of their actions, it will in time start to fade it away. Yeah. Because what I've learned a lot too with the younger generation, I mean, I haven't seen so much acceptance in my life. I mean, a part of them, they are very entitled, which I think is a good thing, because you can figure out yourself that way when you feel like you deserve a lot, because as humans, we do deserve a lot, but they're way more accepting. As a coach, I have the luxury of coaching families sometimes. Yeah. And so I'll do the mother, the daughter, or I'll do the father and the son. Yeah. And sometimes I do all four together in a training or a skill or coaching or whatever. Yeah. And immediately, like, my Instagram is not like for kids.
I love your Instagram. I'm looking at it right now. I have it pulled up.
I am a naked yogi with pride.
Yeah.
And I'm a nudist, and I'm all these things. And it's funny because, like, I'll train the family and the kids will ask, or they'll say, I started following you on Instagram. And I'm like, thank you for the follow. And then they'll ask me, it's like, how did you learn to love your body? And like, how's your husband? You don't post them enough. Like, the things that as a kid, when I was 14, I wouldn't have asked that.
Exactly.
Like, I would never ask a gay man, why do you love your body so much? Yeah. Or ask
where's your husband?
Where's your husband? And to mind you, this is a straight 16-year-old boy. I'm sorry, he's 18 now. Yeah. So he's 17 at the time. And, he has his girlfriends and he's asking me about clothes. Like, do you think my girlfriend would like this shirt? Is it too tight? Like, I'm like, things that conversations that weren't actually had by heterosexual men, let alone being comfortable in the space with a homosexual man or a queer person in general. So I see that there's a lot of hope
There is.
in the future. And it does become, because we have also started responding. I am not a person of violence, but I do understand that you can only push a person so far.
Yeah.
And so I love a good protest, and I love a good rebellion. I love them. Absolutely. Absolutely. I will not hit you first, but you will not be the last person if you hit me first.
Right.
You know, I will never hit a person first.
Yeah.
I will do it all with my words and with my actions. But the moment you hit me, now we have a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of protests. I'm a big fan of voicing your opinion. So I'm excited to see what the kids are going to do these days.
Yeah, because, you know, even I'm not getting political, but even with the George Floyd situation, I saw so many white children laying on the lawn of the White House, laying on the lawn, chanting, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And get this, like my grandmother's a very devout Christian, and you know, but I'm working on her, so she's flexible. She say bitch and all these things now. So I'm working on her. I'm like, be you, child. The word is a word for a reason.
Yeah,
But what I love is, you know, someone that grew up during the civil rights movement. She was born in 47. The civil rights didn't happen to the 60s. So she lived through all of that. She lived through the assassination of Martin Luther King and JFK and Malcolm X. So, you know, what she saw as the way out, as hope, they literally were assassinated by the other side. Well, Malcolm was assassinated by his own people, but for the same thing, because he wanted
same cause.
Yeah, same cause. But I love being able to show my 75-year-old grandmother that all Caucasians don't think like this, that this is not like definitely the young people are taking over. And what we're seeing is the Senate and all of these things, they're nervous because they know after a while, these young people are going to take these seats. You can't win because you can't live forever.
Time is a bitch.
No, you can't win because this is a fight. You can't win because you can't live forever. You are going to have to get old and abdicate that seat. And because you have to do that, that's the divine's way of making sure you have to do that. Can you imagine if tyrants lived forever? The oppression would be at an astronomical level. It would never end. But thank God, like, for putting a time stamp on it, that they have to be done.
They have to be muted. They have to be removed. But it's also cyclical, right? Even tyrants have their day.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I do walk a lot with hope in my pocket.
Yeah.
Always, because you always have a choice, right? That's one of my biggest things. And it goes back to my phrase, no challenge, no change. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
With the absence of challenge, there cannot be change.
Right.
And sometimes that challenge is so heavy that we get blinded by the other side. Yeah. But the reality is, the moment you hit that wall of friction, or the moment you're super heated or super angry about something, take a moment and figure out how you can change it and how it can change you, and then you'll move right through it. So every time there's a challenge, especially if I'm teaching a class or if I'm hosting a workshop, I let them know it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging, but the other you, the better you, the smarter you is on the other side. So if you want change, you keep preaching about change, you have to be willing to go through the challenges. And it applies to everything. Everything. Yeah. So no challenge, no change. And we are in a hell of a challenge as America. America's really being challenged from all ends. And
it is so crazy. I've never seen us in this state. Like, everything is inflated. Things like the grocery store, the gas. And my grandmother's like, why are they doing it? Well, she knows, she's smart, she's a teacher. But I tell her, I'm like, they're trying to make up for the losses that they lost, but they're taxing the poor. They're taxing the class. Yeah, like get it. It's like I used to hate about church. You do an offering twice or three times in the service, you're taxing the same people. There is no new people. You're asking these people to give and give and give, and it's the same people. You can't do that and think that your church is going to thrive and be successful. Well, you can't do that out here in the world. You're taxing the same people, thinking you're going to get 3 different amounts of money from the same person.
It ain't gonna happen, Captain.
It just doesn't make sense. Like listen, a lot of our policies no longer work. And instead of actually sitting down with young minds and creating new policies, the old heads want to just say, no, this is the way it was. This is the way I remember it. And it's like, it's not working.
It's not working.
Get
It's not
this.
working for us.
Yeah.
They say this is the way it was, this is the way it is, and this is the way it works for us. So that they're not willing to change because the change harms them.
Get this. My grandmother said this yesterday. She said, I find it so ironic that everything in this country is fueled by the taxpayer dollar, and that the taxpayer dollars put senators' children in private schools, but yet and still, we can't get a budget to send books home with children in public schools. They don't even get books. But we're putting your kids through private school. And I said to her in rebuttal, I said, unfortunately, the Caucasian race, or, they're not even a race, we're all one human race. The Caucasian nationality does not know what it's like to work solely for something and watch it grow. They always took from someone else. Whereas you have the Moors who actually did many things, and the Asian who actually work hard and amass their fortunes. And then they pass their fortunes and great legacies on to their children. If you look at Caucasians, they have made their money off of the backs of many different cultures. I don't understand, because I'm a big animal person. I don't understand how they were able to chop up Africa. And now there are all of these private game reserves owned by wealthy white men. And Africa is supposed to be for the people that live there. And you tell us to go back to Africa? Well, give us our land because you own it.
Give us our land, give us our resources, and go away.
Yeah. And get it, I can have these conversations because I'm not a racist. I got babies and people that I love. But I did a podcast recently, and I said, you are not going to like this. And it was about the Uvalde shooting in Texas. And I talked about what the real issue was. And I'm like, listen, it's not gun control. It's not human rights. It's not LGBTQIAP plus affairs. I said, and because I'm a shaman, I'm a prophet and an oracle, I hear these things from the divine. So I asked the question and I heard it, and then I made the content. But my grandmother was so blown away by it, because I said, the issue is that when Europeans settled America, they settled America for Europeans. It was not meant for anyone else or any other nationality. It was solely created to foster their gain. And people don't look at that enough. There was never supposed to be anybody here in a position of power other than Europeans, Caucasian Europeans, because we have Black Europeans. Caucasian Europeans settled this land only for them. And look at the extent that they were willing to go to only make sure they profited from this land. The Native Americans sourced out. Blacks, they're upset because with Blacks being who we are and rising and doing what we can do and showing our aptitude, because that's what really gets them. It's not our skin, it's our aptitude. They're like, damn, he's smarter than me. It's a problem for them. That's what the issue is with settling that. It's just like, and I bring light to those things because the divine uses me to talk about those things. But at the end of the day, I always say, but you have the option to be better. Why are you not taking the option? Because you don't want to be better.
Want to be better.
So tell me about this naked yoga stuff. Because we got real deep and dark for a second. Tell
I
me.
know. Yeah, we did. Now let's go
But
back.
it was needed. It was needed. People
It was
watching this are going to love that. People
It
watching.
was necessary. Moments like that are necessary. But naked yoga, it's actually a funny way of how I started it. So I've been practicing yoga for quite some time.
Yeah.
One day I was in my home by myself. I record all of my practices.
Yeah.
And I've always done that way. I recently started sharing them the last couple of years on Instagram. But I record all of my practices and I look back and see how I can do things better. And one day I remember specifically, I was trying to get into crow pose, arm balancing posture, and I had pants on and my elbow kept slipping. And so I was like, I'm going to take these pants off and then I'm fine. Like there's no one here. I got this. And then there was this moment where I was like, oh, nailed this. I like this elbow. I can actually find my tricep. Boom, my knees going right into my tricep. This is perfect. And I was loving the moment. And so then I was like, I'm hot, shirt off, socks off. And that was my first naked experience. But inside that experience, more happens. So remind you, I'm recording this practice. I look back at the practice and I have body issues. I've had them. I was overweight my whole life.
Okay.
Actually in college, I got in shape. I was my first client.
I was going to say, you're in amazing shape.
Well, thank you so much. I worked really hard and I still work hard every day and it goes up and down, but baby always loves himself. And so I was watching it back and I was in a twisted posture after a back bend and I did not like the way my body looked. Because I have loose skin. I mean, I have a long sleeve shirt on. But I have things, I was overweight. I was 302 pounds. And I lost this weight. And so things about my body that I didn't learn to love, stretch marks and all. And I remember looking at this and I had this on my phone for a while. And I was like, I kept going back to it. I kept beating myself up about it. And I've done the therapy and I still constantly do the work on myself with the therapist. And I got to a point when I was like, this is what I look like.
Yeah.
I'm in the best, and I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in the best shape of my life. I worked hard for this. These things that I don't like are the story that got me here. And so the next day I had a full naked yoga practice. I recorded it and I held on to it. I haven't posted it yet. And I'm like, I think I need to post something. I was like, how do I post something without making it seem like thotty and thirsty? But I'm like, but part of me is thotty and thirsty. Like, why am I trying to hide that part of myself?
Thotty, thirsty, and married.
Right? Listen, I'm married. I'm like, why am I trying to hide all these elements of myself to appeal to other people? There are people who are like me who are having these conversations with themselves. And so I was like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to practice. I'm going to pull something out of it and I'm going to post it. Right. And I posted it and I did a caption. I always write something under my post or whatever's happening that day. And I did a caption. I can't even remember exactly what the caption was, but it was talking about being free in your skin and like embracing everything about it. And I think my DMs went up like crazy and none of them were sexual. And I was like, okay, people are receiving me. And then I started having people want to do privates naked. And then I started talking about, the power of nudism and being naked and the power of your skin. And then I did a video showing my stretch marks and like, just showing these things. Like I walked away from the camera because, farther away you are, the less you can see. And then I walked up close. I'm like, this is what I look like when you see me in the streets. Like, this is it. It was a live stream. We went through the whole moment. And then like a lot of people were like, so happy you're sharing this. A lot of my clients didn't know that I was overweight because like they never really asked me. And so then I started posting old stuff. And then it became this whole thing. And in this whole process, I fell in love with myself.
Yeah.
I took a risk of just saying, I don't really care what other people who don't like it will say. I think that other people are having these conversations with themselves and maybe this will help someone. And now when I see people, I'm naked all the time. I am a verified nudist.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm always naked here. I live on the top floor now. So my neighbors, they look up and they see stuff. But for this, I wear clothes. And it's empowering for me. It's not this super sexual thing, although that is part of the human body.
Yeah.
I love this freeness. I love this idea to be able to say, this is what I look like. This is what I love. If you don't like it, you can blink for a long time or you can look away, but
they're not gonna look away. You look great.
Thank God.
But get this, my grandmother had gastric bypass surgery when she was a little younger. What they did was they had her swim and it tightened her skin. She swam every day.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up. If you swim, because you're moving your body in such a way, it'll tighten all the skin.
Too bad I'm terrible at swimming. Too bad I definitely fall into that stereotype. Terrible.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I can swim to save my life, but it's the panic that does it. Because the first I can't listen. I don't do boats because the first time it's not the water. it's the things that are in the water. The first time, like I remember we went to the aquarium in 8th grade in Baltimore, and I'm looking at these fish and we're standing over, and see, this is the thing, like there's the glass where you can see them, but then they had this like upper deck that you walk on and you can look down into the water. And I'm looking at an 8-foot fish and I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's a minnow. They get that big when they leave fresh water and go into salt water.
I don't know.
Right? I was like, get me down now. Get me down. I was like, no, fish get really big.
Yeah, when they're free, they can grow. It's just like space, right? If you give them enough space, like a foot. If you put it in a big shoe, it'll grow. If you put it in a small shoe, it won't grow.
Yeah, it's so odd like that. But yeah, swimming will definitely do it. So let's talk about your life coaching. How did you get into life coaching?
So that actually started from the queer community as well. This actually was a military thing. I had, at this point, I was a platoon sergeant, so I was in charge of a bunch of Marines.
Yeah.
And queer was a big conversation.
Yeah.
And I had a few Lance Corporals and PFCs and privates that were going through identity stuff. Because, you joined the Marine Corps at 18, 17, your parents allow you. And so here we are 19 years old and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
And suicide is always a conversation in the military that we don't talk about. And so I started talking with them as much as I could. And then a lot of them were uncomfortable because they knew who I was.
Yeah.
So then I started doing this anonymous thing. It was basically, have you ever seen the show Sex Education?
It sounds familiar.
And so it's like this kid, he like found an abandoned bathroom and he would be on one side of the stall. It kind of looked like a confessional where you can anonymously walk in and then say what's going on with your life sexually, what you need to do about, and then you go on and figure it out because his mother was a sex therapist. So it's on Netflix. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he's getting all
so,
the information from his mother.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went on and I did that. I set up a space where you can meet. It was like
you're like a Catholic priest.
Similar, but like we weren't doing anything we weren't supposed to do. And
I know, I was thinking Glory Hole 7.
Exactly, right? We'll go with 7, like, and except for those. And like we'd have these conversations and I was getting great feedback. Like people would come back and say, thank you for helping me. Like I was really going through a dark time. And then I was like, I need to take this somewhere. So then I did some courses, I studied, and I started doing a hotline, working on anonymous queer hotlines. And that kind of took me to coaching people in their life. And then I started doing life coaching. I wanted to do that. I was like, okay, because when I do one thing, I want to do it all and I want to do it well.
Yeah.
So I started taking life coaching courses, in person and out of person, and some psychology courses. And then I started just talking to people, sharing my story with their story, and then I just would listen.
Yeah.
And that's when it would all trickle through. And then I started the Warrior Within. So I have my own coaching academy now. It's called the Warrior Within. Yeah. It's a coaching academy where I do just physical and mental, because a lot of coaches are like, I can get you in the best physical shape possible. I was like, that is about 40% of what you walk around with. Right. Majority of what you're going on in life is some mental stuff, or maybe just some clarity you need in life. We all need to first accept the fact that we all have some sort of mental barrier or something. Yeah. We all need to talk to someone. And whether that you are lucky enough to have family, friends, or a therapist, good for you. Some people don't. Right. And so I wanted to make myself readily available. So I created the Warrior Within, where I teach coaches how to be better coaches, but I also teach them how to coach someone physically throughout the session, but also do a mental checklist with them. And it's very subconscious. So they miss it, but then they always walk away from a session like, that was the best training session I ever had. Exactly. And like, you know what, I left here and I wouldn't have had a great day, because I teach them the psychology as well on how to have that engagement, how to listen as a coach. Because as trainers, we just like come up with a program. We're like, okay, do this program, and then like make sure they do it, check their reps. And I'm like, no, we need to go deeper, because physical is a small part. Yeah. And so that's what kind of drove me into life coaching. And then I started doing partnering with my friend Whitney Tucker. She lives in Mexico now. I was just in Mexico a couple weeks ago, and she does retreats. And so actually next year I'm doing a retreat, a wellness retreat, where it's going to be yoga, Pilates, HIIT, and mental. So, just getting people in the room. And now my main focus is brown queer people. Yeah. So I want brown queer people to have a safe space. And so I'm working now with a new team to figure out how to market to them in a way that I'm not here for your money at all. Yeah. I'm here for you to be here later. Yeah. Because I mean, like you, I've done the things, and I'm very blessed financially, and I'm in a place where I'm creating a life.
Yeah.
And it was because I went through hell.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that people don't have to go through.
That.
You can just take a left and go over there. Hell's that way, but if you just take a little detour, you can end up where you want to be in a safer way. So that's what got me into life coaching. And then after the military and the fitness and all that good stuff, I decided that I wanted to do it on my own. Yeah. And so now I put myself out there, and it's been great. I'll say the least. It's been great.
I'm so happy because you looking at this page, you really know what you're doing. You can tell, and you get into so many different poses. It's so good. Like you could tell you do like this is not beginner. Like this is advanced. Like I just look at the poses, and it's just really great to like look into it. And they say, like, especially with Pilates and yoga, it's great it helps you with breath control too.
100%.
You know, that's amazing. Do you do any strength training?
I do, of course. Yeah, I do a very strenuous program compared to most people. Yeah. But I believe in seizing the day. So just to give you a snapshot of my day, I wake up every day between 4 and 4:30 in the morning. I get up, I do yoga. That's the first thing I do. And then I go to the gym. And after the gym, I'm back, I'm home before 9 o'clock. And then like everyone else, they start their 9 to 5. But I always made this decision for the last decade or so is I will always put me first. Yeah. And I'm also very blessed that my husband gets it. Yeah. I wake up in the morning, he doesn't bother me, he doesn't say anything to me, he let me go do my thing. I come back, and then boom, it's time for us to talk and live our lives. And once I started doing that, I was able to be clear. Yeah. My boundaries are super clear. I'm super transparent. Yeah. I will say me before you all the time. Yeah. And that is what helps me. So I wake up, I do my thing, I do my yoga, I do my weight training, I do that 5 times a week. But then I also like to run. So I run a lot. I run maybe 4 times a week. Just a couple of miles here and there. And then that's kind of my regimen. I do believe the absence of one is not success. So I believe you should weight train, you should be functional. And then you should also work on the breath control and breath work, because that's what calms the mind. That's what gives you that moment of clarity. Mm-hmm. And that's what lets you know, hey, this is life inside of me. Yeah. You know, you don't even have to be in a deep pool. They have pools that are like, it's 5 feet all the way across. And you could swim and do that, because they made her do aqua aerobics. That's what she did. And it tightened her like so much. But I'm looking at your page and I don't see a damn thing wrong here. No, well, you know, you got to pull on it to see it. Well, that's not even, is it even worth it then? For me, no, that's why I mean, like, it's like if you gotta pull it, and it's not something that's just, you know, when you just walk in, you look like a Shar-Pei. You don't look like a Shar-Pei. Oh no, darling. I will say, but I love it. He said, "Oh no, darling, no." But that's because I feel the space. So when I first lost all the weight, I went from 300 to 176. Yeah. It was loose. And this is why I became muscular. That was the answer for me, because the doctor was like, well, you can either get big or you can get surgery. I was like, I'm not chopping my body up. Yeah. This is not something I want to do. Those who want to do it, go for it. But like for me, I'm like, I got to this place out of a lack of discipline. Mm-hmm. And so this will help me tell my story. I'm like, I'm not going to cut my skin. Like, what else can you do? He's like, you can gain weight. And I was like, well, do you mean like size, or like, do I have to get big again? He's like, well, if you filled it all with muscle, then you'd be fine. And so that's actually when I became. All right, say less. Yeah. And then now I'm like 205. Yeah. And I flushed a whole bunch of muscle in there, and I was like, this works. Yeah, it works. It works a whole lot. Oh my God. So every yogi has like pillars that they live by, that they, you know, because I usually ask people, give me 3 words that inspire and empower you. But I know that every yogi has those like mantras that they live by. What are yours? So my first one, I have a mantra that I have been saying for over 2 years. I usually don't actually share this one, but it's fine. And it's, I wake up in the morning and I say, I am enough. And I need to say that 10 times. Yeah. And that is a pillar that I pass on to everyone else. It's like, tell yourself, I am enough. Because the moment that you accept that your value of self is the only thing that matters, other people will begin to see your value. Yeah. The
Yeah.
next thing, a big pillar of mine is be kind.
Mhm.
Be kind and be selfless.
Yeah.
Because once you've said, I am enough, that is a form of being selfish, which is what you need to fill the tank. But then immediately after that, now that the tank is full, don't be greedy, be
Yeah.
kind, be selfless, and share it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is be human.
Yeah.
Be human. Those are the three things that if you ask anyone who knows anything about me, it's those three things: no challenge, no change, and burpees. I freaking love burpees. I don't know why. Everyone hates burpees. I love burpees.
You like jump in and
I love a good burpee. Love it. Love a good burpee.
oh my God. I am so touched, moved, and inspired. We have had a very serious conversation. Like I can't wait for them to see this. You're my only conversation of the day because I wanted it to resonate with the viewers. Like I wanted to promote it and really let it resonate because we really talked here and it was very freeing. I didn't even mind having to get up early. I got up at 6 over here. And it was, the 6-hour difference. Yeah. And I'm like, and it was the only, but I knew it's the only one. And then as soon as I'm done, my weekend starts. But my thing is, my weekend is never really a weekend because I work on other things. I'm just not in front of the camera on the weekends. So I can do all the promotions. I can get the little snippets and get the snippets out and the pictures and, stuff like that. It's amazing. Tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
So I have 3 places you can find me. The first one is my main Instagram page, which is Lewis, LEWIS _ McNairy, MCNAIRY _fitness. If you do Lewis _ MCNA, you'll find me. And then also I have another Instagram page. It's called The Warrior Within You. Warrior _ within _ you. It's a newer page that I'm going back to where I'll do a lot of speaking and some empowerment. And then if you really just like, Lewis, I love what you're talking about, but I just want to see you naked, you can go to my Twitter, which is Naked Yoga with Lewis on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. You, sir, are amazing. What's your husband's last name?
Moons, but it's spelled like Moens, Moens. So Moons.
Okay. 10 years. You said not married for 9, been together 10?
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. Like, I don't usually ask about love, but it's Pride Month. What drew you to him? Like, how did y'all click? Because see, I've never had a boyfriend. So yeah, I've been the object of affection. I have.
I love it for you.
But yeah, like how did y'all click to where you knew, like, I'm gonna stay with you because you're all
it was ironic in a way, because neither one of us actually want to bring children in the world, but we were both in Beijing, China, and I had an American family in China where I was spending Christmas with, and we were just dating at the time, and he was playing with their kids, and I remember pulling out my phone and texting him, and I was like, I love you, right?
Yeah.
And then he didn't even answer. He just looked at the phone and looked at me, and it was kind of like a mutual thing.
Oh.
And then I later found out, just recent, maybe a couple of years ago, that he told his best friend after maybe a month of us meeting that he knew he was going to be with me for the rest of his life. And I didn't even know that.
Oh.
And I also, I never wanted to get married. I'm not a big fan of marriage. I believe you just choose to be with somebody, but I was in the military at the time. And if something would happen to me, he had no rights to me.
Right.
So for me,
that's why, see, that's what I love, because you married for a reason.
Yeah.
To give him access. Yeah.
Because honestly, I was like, after maybe the first 4 months, I was like, I didn't think I would be this is it. Like it was so unique, because I also don't throw the word love around. Like I've only loved one other man before him. Yeah. And it just didn't work, of course, obviously. But with him, it still is seamless in ways. We disagree a lot, but we always conversate. And that's something I've never had before. If we ever disagree about something, we conversate about it. And it's something I've never had before. There's no blowing up. There's no pointing the blame. It's like conversation.
That's what happens when you're an American and you go abroad.
Yeah, people talk to you instead of yell at you and blame you and throw shit.
Yeah. They teach you how to love in a more worldly way.
Yeah, and so we conversate, and I tell people we're married because it's easier to say that, but honestly, he's just my partner in life. Like there is not a thing he could do that would make me ever walk away from him.
But do you know what I love? There's not a thing he would do to make you walk away. Do you see that it's a
Yeah.
cycle, it's cyclic, like y'all, like it's not, no. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Absolutely. I want to thank you for taking this time to talk to me. I want to
I'm
thank you.
grateful. I mean, I didn't even realize it's been over an hour. I could do this forever, probably.
Yeah, because we have a lot in common. We share a similar idea, about how life should be. And that idea is that life should be lived to the fullest without complication, but you too have said it, like you said in your mantras, part of the process is the uncomfortable stuff, the difficult stuff. Like my grandmother always told me, nothing worth having should come easy. And that is something that our people, it's not something that somebody gave us. So they're saying you're welcome. No, we learned that it was because we learned that it was going to be a struggle in this world, in this society anyway. But if we put up with it, and trudged through it, we would get to the other side, because the only way out is through. Like you can't go above it, you can't go under it, you can't go around it. You have to go through the fire, through the furnace. And that's why I am who I am today, because I just said, you know what? I am not going to use anything or anyone as a scapegoat. I'm just going to pick it up from here and I'm going to run with the ball. And that's what I did. And it ran me all the way here.
And hopefully to Paris.
Yes. That's a given. That's a given. I've been talking to people. They like, listen, come on, girl. You will never have to look back. You'll never have to look back. They like, your country will be paying you to come back. I'm like, no, I'm not coming back. But I do know that I'll probably work on both continents, because I too, I'm a mentor, and I do these speaking things. So it's like I didn't go to school for it, but I just naturally am that. So I have a lot to say. So I know I'll be speaking to the minds of college students, basically. I know that will happen. So it's like, call it philosophy, call it journalism, whatever it is. Let them get a title for it.
Let them get a title for it. Just let you do your work.
Exactly. I know what I can do, and that's what I do. I thank you so much. I have enjoyed this. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, you have enjoyed the vocal stylings of Mr. Louis McNairy, yogi extraordinaire, life liver, life coach, Pilates, strength, head warrior, naked yoga guy, fashion. We didn't talk about fashion. We have to talk about, nope, I can't leave. How does fashion tie into this? Because that's my thing.
All right, let's do this really quick before we get out of here. So when I lived in New York City, I've always been a big fan of fashion. That's always been my thing.
Yeah.
And I moved to New York City and I had this issue where I could never fit anything.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Fashion school's right over there. So I enrolled into Berkeley in New York City, went to Mood Fabrics, took a lot of sewing classes, learned how to sew, wound up getting a bachelor's in fashion. And now I'm actually having 2 things coming out next year. I'll have some t-shirts with some very meaningful quotes that I've created, and fitness underwear as well, because underwear that I cannot fit off the rack never works for me, because I have a small waist and peanut butter below.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to creating t-shirts and fitness underwear. So that's the beginning. And then
I like how he said peanut butter.
the peanut butter below, it's thick down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And then I was a stylist for a while. I also still do private styling if they ask. So fashion has always been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
If you look at some of my Instagram posts, I also drop some of this gender bender fashion, because I do believe that there's no gender in clothes.
Yeah.
That was always my thing. And so the Fluid Project is actually one of my favorite stores in New York City. It's a very fluid source, the Fluid Project. It's a queer line. So if you want to support clothes this year for queers, Fluid Project. So yeah, that's how fashion ties into my life.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I see on your page. You play with clothes. It's like you wear this, you wear that. This one I'm looking at, it's the long sweatshirt. I like that one.
The black and white one, the all white.
The black and white one.
Yeah, I like
It's
that.
white it's all white and it has black on the front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are these boots? Yeah. Yes, they're boots, they're heels.
You know, every
I
once in
love
a
it.
while, she puts those on.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I love the bodysuit you put on that was sheer. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming here.
Pleasure's been all mine, I
me.
swear.
God, I'm gonna I don't drink, but I'm gonna have me a strong tea after this. I don't drink, but honey, I'm gonna have me some. I think I'll have me some Moroccan mint tea.
Mm.
Yeah, it's good. My friend sent it to me. Well, actually, my sister sent it to me, and I'm just like, oh, she sent me this wig too. That's why I keep planning it. It's new.
Right? You're like, this is mine.
I
This
got
is
it yesterday. I'm
Okay.
obsessed. I'm obsessed with wigs. Wigs are my thing. So again, here we go. I'm gonna try it again. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the vocal stylings of Mr. Louis McNairy. Say bye to the people, but don't go away.
All right. Until next time, hopefully I'll see you again.
Yes. So did you enjoy? I hope you did. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and don't forget to cash at me at the Queen of Shade. I am your favorite content creator, right? Right. You want to see more of this content, right? Right. Cash at me. I love you. Mwah.
I've got my black stilettos on. Don't you make me take them off. I'm assuming first position. Gonna show you I'm a boss. I've been given 60 seconds just to put my thing down. I'll have you wanting my stilettos by the time I turn around. Turn that TV down.